G'day guys, Wereman here. Welcome back to the workshop. We are back at Adam's place. Say g'day, buddy.
Hey.
So we're going to do some more optional rules. And I have a question for you, sir.
Okay.
A quick question for you and for anybody out there that's listening to this. Do you think it's reasonable to accept that a machine gun and an AC-20 have the same chance to blow a limb off?
Same chance.
The same chance. If you roll a hit and you hit internal armor with either a machine gun or an AC-20 and you roll your critical hit chance, if you get a 12 on either of them, the arm gets blown off. Do you think that's reasonable? I think it's cool, rules as written, but in a physical reality, do you think that's reasonable?
Yeah, I would say so, because it's not necessarily like the way that they do damage would be a little different. And when we're talking like the inside exoskeleton and all those cables and bundles and mimer bundles, damage is damage.
Yeah. If the answer to that was yes, it's fine, then you're probably not going to enjoy this one. If you don't think it's fair, then I have for you the expanded critical hits and damage table.
Oh.
So what they've done, this is on page 74 of TAC Ops, obviously. What they've done is they've made it so that your critical hit roll, your chance to get a critical hit, is modified by the actual damage output of the weapon that does the critical hit, if you see what I mean. So
yes.
Yep. So what you've got is a little table there on page 74, and your damage value grouping. And so that, for anybody who isn't sure, so a medium laser does a single damage grouping of 5. An AC-20 does a single damage grouping of 20. LRMs do 5-point groupings of however many missiles hit.
Yep.
Right? SRMs do single 2-point groupings, depending on how many missiles hit.
Right.
Okay, so
yeah, true.
It's based on the damage value of the group, right? So if your grouping is 1 to 5, you get a +0. 6 to 10, you get a +1. 11 to 15, you get a +2. 16 to 20, you get a +3. And if you can do 21 or more damage in a single grouping, you get a +4, right? And then they change the actual critical hit roll table, right? So the roll table is now between 2 and 8, there's nothing. 9 to 10 is 1 critical hit. 11 to 12 is 2, and then you have to get 13 or 14 to get 3 critical hits, and if you get 15 or better, you get the blown off or 3 critical hits. Right? So it's a slightly modified thing, and the only way you can get more than 12 is to do more than 5 points of damage in a single grouping. So a medium laser, a machine gun, a single SRM, they're not going to be able to blow a limb off, right? If you've only got up to 5 points in your damage grouping, you're only ever going to be able to get 12. That's the most you can roll. So you're only ever going to be able to do 2 critical hits. And that's it. That's if you get 11 or 12. But if you can, say, hit with an AC-20 and get some internal stuff, you get +3 to that roll. So if you roll a 12 and you've got your +3, you get the 15, which is head or limb blown off, or 3 critical hits.
Right.
So, I mean, it isn't... I don't think it's really extraordinarily necessary for this, but it is a cool little flavor thing that you can put in there and say, okay, well, I'm sick of that piranha shredding an Atlas every time it comes up and does critical damage, right? A machine gun hitting things and ripping limbs off and exploding engines doesn't seem right to me. But if you've got an AC-20 and you're doing it, then yeah, sure, there's more power behind that weapon. There's more damage behind that weapon. So it's got a better chance of doing the big hits, the big damage internal. It's,
Hollywood would beg to differ. The more guns and bullets and everything flying around, the more people stay and watch and recommend, and I think probably eat more popcorn. They've probably done some sort of survey on that
and
too.
you can throw a person like halfway across a room with a single 9mm pistol.
Yeah.
But
that's gun fu, though.
That's gun fu.
And anime.
I do like my gun fu.
Who doesn't love gun fu? Right?
It's cool. Well, this one gives you a bit more realistic gun fu. You'd have to take some big guns to do the big damage.
Mech gun fu.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
I still like the idea of being able to blow limbs off with a machine gun. It's cool to me. So I probably wouldn't actually use this one. But we were using the floating crits rule in our prison scenario.
Yeah.
And it just struck me that when one of your Komodos fell over and hit itself in the leg for damage, and I think it was only the 2-point damage or something, or it might have been a max of 5 points of damage that it hit him in the leg, and it had a chance to go critical because it was a critical hit. It had a chance to actually rip that leg off with only doing 5 points of damage. And I'm like, that's an unarmored, a completely armored, it's undamaged leg that's about to be ripped off by 5 points of damage. So, I mean, yes, it makes sense if you can get it in the right spot and just bang and sort of ping in there, and it'll do the damage. But you're not ripping limbs off with machine guns is the thing. I don't know. I quite like it, but like I say, I don't think I'd use it because I enjoy the idea of the over-the-top machine gun obliterating things. Yeah.
You'll find that unless you're shooting with a longer range weapon, so it reduces the amount of return fire to yourself, like a LBX cannon. You know, even if it's a 5, you know, you've got a bit of range to help you out there. And that may be just 1 point of damage, you know, you're doing but that's still the same sort of thing, but at least at least you got a bit of protection from that too. It still counts the same. It's only 1 point, but it's all those rules that you just said account.
And that's it. And if you stand off with an LB2X at max range, fire it and somehow get a 2 for your location, you can technically blow a limb off with that one LB2X pellet.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a thing you can do. If you use this advanced thing, there's no way. You can get a couple of critical hits, like a max of 2 critical hits with anything less than 5 points in a grouping. So you can still do criticals, but you're not going to get that one little pellet went and blew his arm completely off or his leg completely off. Right? So it makes it a little less over the top. It's kind of backing that damage down a bit so that there's more timing needed, more power in the weapons to do the big damage.
It's funny, but there's always been sort of stories that have mentioned some sort of design. It's not necessarily a flaw. I guess it depends how you look at it, but like some sort of quirk about it, like the Commando with the way the knee guard, the front of the armor plating works. So they're talking about how the
there was something about them being able to chuck satchel charges in there.
Yeah, that used to be a little bit easier for them to, because they could just chuck it up there. And it's such a big area, you can't miss, you know.
Yeah.
And boom, that goes straight into the leg.
Oh, there was one about, what was it? Was it no, it's not the Hermes. There's another one that's got like its ankle actuators are basically exposed all the time, according to the law.
Oh.
It's not the Clint. What's the other one?
It's a Starleague design?
Yeah, and in the TRO, it's got it like standing like that, and you see the big circles on its ankles. And I'm like,
Ostal.
Could be. I don't know.
There's a few of them that are like that.
I think it was one of those city fighting mechs that is supposed to be there. It was one that was like fairly readily used, but I think it has like a quirk where it's got the exposed actuator quirk or something like that.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
But that was part of the law was they kept breaking down because those actuators are actually exposed to the fire. So they just get shot and they wouldn't be able to walk properly anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I like that. Maybe, I don't know, a game where you have the floating crit plus
this.
plus that. So that is how you play it. And just to see what sort of difference that makes. I think that would be quite interesting. I'd like to have a look at that.
See, that's what I'm thinking is when you want to have a bit more, slightly more realism, but still have like some fun, you can still do big damage with big things. But like my LRMs, if I'm using LRMs a lot, I'm rolling a lot of dice and I can easily get a 2 or a 12 or hit somewhere that's got internal structure exposed. But I'm not going to do too much major damage. I can get up to 2 critical hits with a single grouping of LRMs.
Yeah.
Whereas currently, I can technically blow a limb off with that. I can get 3 internal engine hits if I roll floating internal crit.
Yep.
Like through armor crit, a 2, with 5 points of thing, or even 1. Like I say, the LB2X at major distance, 1 pellet, you get a 2, hits the chest, bang, the engine explodes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's orc tactics. You know? They just run up and they roll a buttload of dice.
Yeah. So there is that.
It's still a 2d6 based game.
Yeah.
So the numbers, it can work, and that's another reason why that SRM6 carrier, the SRM carrier, you know, the one with the 9 SRM6s on it.
10. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The one that blew up your transport.
Yeah. I think there's a big hole in the mountainside nearby as well. You know, it really did a number.
Yeah, I think my urban mech was lucky he didn't manage to get up. He would have copped most of them to the face.
Anyway,
dear.
Yeah, but both of those would be really good together to try it that way.
Yeah, so you could have floating crits and this and just try it out a couple of games and see.
Yeah.
It just kind of peels the over-the-topness back a little bit.
And it would influence your choice of unit
Weaponry
as well,
yes.
your weaponry. So you look at your unit types and you try and take advantage of getting into a position where you have to roll on one of these new tables to see.
Yeah. Well, your Gauss rifle gets a +2.
Oh, yeah.
Your PPC gets a +1.
Yeah.
So your Awesome's getting +1 on every single one of those. So that's cool.
Wow.
But yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever actually use it. I'm not sure. It's a bit iffy, but I quite like it. But anyway.
Nice find, mate. Nice find.
Yeah, so we'll call that one there. You guys stay groovy and we'll see you in the next one.